Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. I'm Dr. Nicole, and on today's episode, we're talking about the benefits of meditation for children's and teens and families. Now, I know some of you might already be thinking about turning the episode off because you assume this is going to be about trying to get your kid to sit still for extended periods of time, not think about anything. Keep listening because that's actually not at all what we're going to be talking about. I find there's a lot of misconceptions, especially among parents, about what it means to meditate and how to use that as a strategy with kids. And what we're going to learn today is how meditation actually helps the brains of our children and of ourselves, and practical and doable ways of incorporating meditation into our lives and into the lives of our children. I don't know anyone better to explore this with than Emmy Fletcher. Emmy is the founder of Ziva Meditation and the leading expert in meditation for extraordinary performance. Her best-selling book, Stress Less, Accomplish More, debuted at number 7 out of all books on Amazon. The New York Times, Good Morning America, The Today Show, Vogue, ABC News, all of them have featured Emily's work. She's been named one of the top 100 women in wellness to watch and has taught more than 20,000 students around the world, has spoken on meditation for performance at places like Apple, Google, many more. And Ziva graduates include Oscar, Grammy, Tony, and Emmy award winners, NBA players, Navy SEALs, Fortune 500 CEOs, and lots of busy parents. The Ziva Technique is a powerful trifecta of mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting designed to unlock your full potential. I use and love Emily's work. I am so thrilled to have her here today. Thanks, Emily, for being here.
Oh, can that be like my alarm clock? I feel like we just an ego boost to have your voice reading this massive list of things. But I'm really happy to be here, and thank you for the work that you're doing in the world and getting these tools to kids. I'm excited
Absolutely.
to chat.
So, in the intro, I was sort of joking, but it's true. People have really interesting ideas about what meditation is, right? They assume it means you've got to change your lifestyle, like move to some commune, start wearing patchouli, dress a certain way. But what you've really done with meditation and with Ziva is to talk about the neuroscience behind it and to make it really practical and doable in people's lives. So talk more about that.
Yeah, well, first of all, I hate patchouli. I
You and
am
me both.
a little interested in a communal living situation given our current affairs, but really just a neighborhood with people, with curated friends. That's what I'm looking for.
Yes.
But to your point, you don't have to change your whole lifestyle in order to start meditating. The way I see it and the way I teach it is that it's a tool to help you be the person that you want to be. It's a tool to help you get better at life, because no one really cares how good you are at meditating. No one cares how many or few thoughts you're having when you sit quietly in a chair. No one cares how many minutes a day you're meditating for. What people care about is, are you kind? Are you present? Are you healthy? Are you creative? Mm-hmm. And our kids need that from us. Our kids need us to be present with them. And when we're stressed, when we're overreacting, when we're reviewing the past and rehearsing the future, we're robbing our children of being fully present with them. And also our children deserve these tools because, they're being asked to face a lot. Like even in normal circumstances, our modern day lives are very demanding on children to sit still, to eat food that isn't food, to not be in nature, to be asked to focus for long periods of time. It's not always optimal for children's development. And so now we throw on top of this huge global transition, and kids are being asked to really step up. And so the way I've framed ZivaKIDS is just that it's a tool to help you become the superhero version of you. It's a tool to help you unlock your own kindness, your own creativity, your own bravery, which is really what we're all looking to do in this life.
Absolutely. And I love that you're talking about the benefits of this for kids and parents, because so much of how our children learn to experience emotions and manage those emotions and behaviors and just manage the challenges of the world is through watching us, right? And how they see us doing that. And so I love that this is a tool that benefits children, not only through directly using it with them, but also through our use of these principles and these tools.
Mm-hmm. If you've ever heard of the Suzuki method, which I'm sure you have, it's like in learning to play violin, like the child can't even pick up the violin until the adult learns to play one song. And I thought that's such a fascinating concept. Our children learn to speak by hearing us speak. They learn to watch by watching watching us walk. And the same is true with our emotions and with stress. They will learn our patterns and our ability to regulate stress from watching us, not from what we tell them to do. So I have bad news if anybody's listening, be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get my kids to meditate, but I don't want to meditate. I'm too busy for that nonsense, but I'll just have my kids do it. It's like, well, sorry about it, but your kids can take the class. I can handle your kids, but you got to handle you, right?
That's
like you're going to have to clean your own house.
That's right. I love that. And, I'm excited for us to be talking about this in terms of, you've got this great new platform that's going to be coming soon, ZivaKIDS. And, actually the listeners right now are some of the first people to hear about it, which is super exciting.
First. This is my first podcast talking about it.
So exciting. So all of you, you're like on the cutting edge of this, and we'll make sure you have information at the end for how you can, get all the details on this when it does launch. But let's talk a bit about the neuroscience behind meditation and how it can be helpful for kids, because I think people are seeing more. We're having research studies and things come out now showing, for example, that having kids who are struggling with their behavior, emotions in school, go to a room to do some meditation techniques, as opposed to sending them to detention or suspending them, that's such a better approach. So we're seeing these things come out, but talk with us about why this is helpful to the brain. How is this helpful?
Sure. So, there's a few studies that have been happening specifically with inner city schools in San Francisco, where they started implementing meditation instead of punishment. And they saw detentions decrease, they saw attendance increase, they saw violent episodes decrease, grades increased, morale increased. And it was just by this one shift. Instead of punishing people, they were giving people tools to help them regulate. And it really made a massive difference. And so the cool thing here is that, while there are differences between children's brains and adults' brains, stress is really an equal opportunity employer, right? Like, it doesn't care how old you are. And when we get stressed, our bodies launch into a fight or flight stress reaction. We've probably all heard that. What was news to me is exactly what happens biochemically in the body when we get stressed. So one thing that will happen is our digestion will flood with acid to shut down digestion, because if a tiger were to really be attacking us, we would need all of that energy to fight or flee. We couldn't afford it to digest our food. That same acid will seep onto our skin, so we don't taste very good if we get bitten into by the tiger. That's what's aging us. So, our kids aren't really that worried about that, but some of us moms are. And then our bladder and bowels will evacuate. So that's, I say in the kids course, I'm like, the nervous poos before you have to give a presentation in front of the class? That's your body preparing for a tiger attack. And this is something that everyone's really interested in, is that our immune system goes to the back burner when we're stressed. Because the body, again, if it's trying to deal with an imminent predatory attack, it's not so interested in that cold. It's not so interested in the cancer that may or not be happening decades from now. It's got to have all hands on deck right now. So this series of chemical reactions is very useful if your demands are predatory attacks. But if your demands are tests or social groups or online bullying or flying or in-laws, then this fight or flight thing is now disallowing us from performing at the top of our game. And that's really my whole gig with Ziva, is that I want people to see meditation as the performance tool that it can be, meaning that it's just going to help you to be a better mother. It's going to help you be a better CEO, a better student, a better sibling. And that there's nothing wrong with you if you're feeling stressed. It's actually your body trying to protect you. And there are tools that we can use to get rid of this stress so that we can unlock these powers that all of us have. And it's not special. Like, you don't have to be special in order to be a superhero, right? Like, we all have the capacity to step into the most amazing version of ourselves. It's just that often we haven't been given the right tools.
Well, and the tools piece is so important, because I find with kids that we set the bar pretty high for them in terms of what we expect them to do with understanding and managing and regulating their emotions and behaviors, even for young kids. And the reality is that kids need to be taught how to do that. They don't come into this world just knowing how to do that. And stress and anxiety and all of these kinds of things are a normal part of everyday life experience. Sometimes kids come into the clinic and they'll be like, I don't ever want to feel anxious again. Or, parents will say, I don't want to feel any stress. And it's like, well, you're a normal person living a normal life. So that's, going to be part of it. But I can teach you some tools that will help you navigate that. And that's really, as you were pointing out, so important. It's not that we can create a world where these discomforts, these stressors, these things don't exist for kids, but we can give them the tools to navigate that in a healthier, more effective way.
Yeah. And I love the way you're saying that, to navigate it in a healthier way, to see there's nothing wrong with kids who are feeling emotions. There's nothing wrong with adults who are feeling emotions. And to be honest, this is what a big part of my job is when I teach adults, is that I'm giving them permission to feel their feelings. I have this nerdy song in Ziva Online where I'm like, better out than in. Yep. Better out than in. And I have to do a stupid little dance around it to make people laugh, because most of us have been trained since infancy to not feel our feelings, right? Like, shh, don't cry. Shh, don't cry. Don't be sad, have a bottle. Don't be angry, have a toy. Don't be mad, have some more food. And we've just been trained to shove down our emotions. And interestingly, what Ziva does is that it's not a balm. It's not a pain pill. Okay. This is not something that you take, like you said, to numb your emotions. It's not something that you do to make yourself immune from the human experience. It is resilience training. It is giving you the tools to feel fully and to move through to the other side. And so the imagery that we use in the kids course, so there's 2 different ages for ZivaKIDS. The first one is 4 to 8, but we use the analogy of the Stormies. And so the Stormies are if they're feeling sad or angry or scared. And I love the image of a Stormy because it's not, and to be honest, when we did the first iteration, we shot an alpha test a few months ago, and we were calling them stress monsters because we thought it'd be kind of funny to have like little balls, like with little furry hair. And we just thought it was like a cute, like, oh, stress monsters. But then halfway through, I realized like, oh no, we've made a grave mistake. Like, I do not want children to think that their emotions are monsters, or that they are monsters if they're feeling angry. And so we switched it to the Stormies, which I love, because if a storm is coming, there's nothing wrong. It's just time for rain. Yeah. And sometimes there's lightning storms, and sometimes there are rainstorms, and sometimes it's just a cloudy day. But the beautiful thing is that the sun is always shining, right? Like even on a cloudy day, the sun is always there. And similarly, even if our children are feeling these big emotions, their bliss is always there inside of them. And so the more we can give people, ourselves and our children, permission to feel these things and to feel them fully, we simply move through to the new now more quickly. We're able to come into the present moment, which is always where our bliss and fulfillment lives. It's always here, always now. But we're usually in stress or anxiety or depression when we are reviewing the past and rehearsing the future. And this is really the beauty of meditation, is that it's taking your present moment awareness to the gym, right? So if we think about the brain, left brain, right brain, left brain is very good at past and future, analytical thinking, critical thinking, language, math, balancing our checkbooks. And even for young children, because of the way that we school them, they're really taking that left brain to the gym. And what we're doing with meditation is we start taking the right brain to the gym, which is in charge of, like I said, present moment awareness, color, creativity, music, connection, intuition, creative problem solving. And if you look at a human brain, it does split right down the middle. 50-50. And I don't think nature makes mistakes. I don't think that nature would have given us 50-50 if it wanted us to use 90-10. And so I think this is why people are getting so excited, and why meditation is having such a renaissance right now, is that when we start doing it, when we start taking this right brain to the gym, our brain starts coming online. We're able to use not only our critical thinking, but also our creative thinking. We're able to feel our emotions and make decisions based on them, versus an either or phenomenon, which many of us have been living in for a long time.
Absolutely. And we know from neuroscience research that it's really the integration of the right and the left brain that allows us to function our most optimally, right? Whether it's a child or it's an adult, when we can bring those pieces together, that allows for optimal function, and it allows for what we really want for ourselves and for our children, which is to be able to regulate that, to feel what we're feeling, but also use that more logical, analytical part of our brain to then manage what we do with those feelings, right? And kids need to learn how to do that. We have to teach them how to do that. They don't just wake up one day and it's like, oh, I'm 2 years old now, I've got that all figured out. That's a process over, really childhood and even, into adulthood of figuring that out. But this gives the tools for helping to support bringing both of those halves of the brain together to better integration. At least that's how I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I think that's beautifully said. And the thing I just want to, I know I keep harping on this, but I think it's really important that because often we as adults, because we sort of grew up, many of us grew up in this paradigm of, just don't speak, like just smile, just be there, don't feel your feelings, just be seen and not heard. You have to fall in line. And yes, there is a place for discipline. Yes, there is a place for like functioning in society. But I think that we're collectively suffering from this repression of emotion. Yeah. And if we all as children were given tools to process and to feel and to create instead of destroy in a healthy, productive way, I think that a lot of the problems that we're facing as a species right now would look very different.
Totally agree. And I love what you said, going back to the idea of the Stormies and allowing ourselves to feel feelings. So often I think what happens for children for sure, but even for a lot of us as adults, we have this idea that when uncomfortable feelings arise, they're never going to go away, right? It's like kids will be like, oh, I'm feeling that feeling. I need to make it stop right now because it's not going to go away. It's going to stay. And one of the things about feelings is they come and they peak, but then they go. And so I love that idea of the Stormies, because storms come and then they pass. Mm-hmm. And for kids to learn that when you can sit with those feelings, both feelings that they associate as positive, as well as feelings that may be uncomfortable, when you can sit with those and just learn greater tolerance for those feelings, they don't have to be so scary, and they don't have to act out in ways to try to stuff them down or make them stop, or maybe get a need met in a less appropriate way, because they can trust that I'm having this feeling, it's okay, and it will pass.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of concepts here. One, there's a Maya Angelou quote, and she says, every storm runs out of rain. Yeah. And I just think it's just so simple and so profound, right? I mean, and even, where we are collectively, every storm runs out of rain. Mm-hmm. To your point, like it will end. And you could panic about the rain. You could cry about the rain. You could get angry at the rain. It's going to rain anyway. Right. And there's a concept in Buddhism. I'm not Buddhist. I don't teach Buddhism, but there is a beautiful concept that comes from Buddhism, which is that of the double arrow. Mm-hmm. And the idea is that, pain is part of the human experience. And that's a single arrow. The people will die. We will fall down and skin our knees. There will be pain. That's part of the human experience. That's a single arrow. Mm-hmm. But if we put fear on top of pain, then we create a double arrow and it gets stuck. And I think that's what we are inadvertently teaching our children when we ourselves don't have the tools to fully process and feel our emotions, or if we try because of our own discomfort, because it's hard as parents to see our children in pain. Yeah. And so we instinctively or habitually try to calm it or soothe it. And I think that we have to watch ourselves to make sure that the calmness, that the desire to help and to love is one that gives spaciousness for our children to feel instead of squelching the emotion. Mm-hmm. And I think that if we really can do that for ourselves, gives ourselves space to feel and process, then one, we're leading by example. And then two, it's easier to sit in the discomfort of seeing our children moving through an emotion and just asking questions, right? How are you feeling? Where in your body are you feeling this? Does it feel like it's never going to end? Do you maybe want to draw with me? Let's draw how we're feeling right now. Do you want to maybe move our body? So one of the things that we do with the younger kids is that we have them shake. Every animal, when they get stressed, they shake it off. And there's some exciting neuroscience coming out about the impact of shaking off stress. And so that's actually how we start the practice for the kids. So to your earlier point, we're not just telling your kids to sit silently and not move or talk or have any thoughts, because that sounds like punishment. But we start by shaking it off. And so and we're very careful with the language that we're even saying in this, that we're shaking through the stormies, right? We're moving through the emotions.
Yeah. As opposed to trying to make them stop or go away. Yeah, we're moving through it. And the tools to do that in a way that is helpful. And that the research about the shaking, we're seeing that come out now in all kinds of trauma, PTSD, all of that, where that kind of physical movement is so helpful for that. I want you to touch on, in Ziva, you've really come up with an approach to teaching this and to helping people embrace this as a practice that, at least I have found, is quite different from a lot of what's taught out there in terms of meditation, whether we're talking about children or adults. So can you talk about that a bit? What makes Ziva and the approach that you use different from a lot of other meditation processes or apps that might be out there?
Sure. So what a lot of people now call meditation are the free apps on our phone. You know, most everybody has at least one free meditation app on their phone, if not a few. And look, there's a lot of them that are really great. A lot of them have really changed people's awareness, changed people's fear. They've gotten their toe in the water, which is all great. I am a fan of most of them. And what I would say is that what most of the meditation, and I'm using air quotes on purpose there, apps are teaching is actually mindfulness.
Yeah.
And this gets confusing for folks because we're using the terms mindfulness and meditation as synonyms. And as these tools are becoming more popular, it's important that we become specific with our vernacular. So I would define mindfulness as the art of bringing your awareness to the present moment, which is beautiful and necessary. And this is why people say cooking is my meditation or exercise is my meditation. What they're really saying is, well, I'm present when I'm cooking. I'm present when I'm exercising, which is, again, great. Mindfulness is very good at dealing with your stress in the now. It is very good at creating a state change. Like, oh, I had a crazy day at work. Let me do 10 minutes of my app. I feel better in the now. Kind of like a pain pill, right? It's an immediate state change. Versus the meditation portion of the Ziva technique is creating a trait change. It is healing you on a cellular level, and it is dealing with your stress from the past. So as I'm sure you know, we're not just dealing with today's stresses. Right. Every time you've ever been in a fight or flight, it's left a little open window on your brain computer. And there's some studies suggesting that we're even inheriting that from a few generations prior, that we have this epigenetic thing that we're born with. And so the important piece to know here is that where Ziva is so special, the reason why people see this real performance enhancement is that we're not just dealing with the stress from today. We're actually giving you a tool to give your body rest that is even deeper than sleep. And when you do that, the body knows how to heal itself. And one of the things it heals itself from is stress, not only from today, but all this stuff we've been accumulating for our whole lives. And when you start to clear out the body and the brain in that way, that's where you start to really see this return on investment. You put in 15 minutes, you get back hours of productivity in your day, because many of us don't even realize how much stress is costing us. Many of us don't even understand how it's affecting our sleep latency, our ability to rejuvenate during our sleep, our recovery time, our immune systems, our decision-making capabilities, our creative abilities. And so once you start to get rid of that, it's like turning off white noise that you didn't even know was on. And you're like, oh, I just have so much more space. I have so much more time. I have so much more creativity. I'm able to hear my own intuition. I'm not making bad decisions as much. I don't get sick as often. And so it's a small investment to make to get a massive return on investment. And then we end with the manifesting. So the Ziva technique, like you mentioned, it is mindfulness, meditation, and manifesting. Sort of like the mindfulness is the appetizer, the meditation is the main course, and the manifesting is the dessert. And we even manifest with the kids because they're so beautifully poised to still have a handle on their imagination. They really still believe that anything is possible. They are so imaginative, and that's all manifesting is. It's using your imagination to live into, to be creative about who you want to be in the world. Who do I want to be today? How do I want to feel today? It's not magical thinking. It's not like, oh, let me put a picture of a Ferrari on my wall and then I'll get a Ferrari. It's more about reminding yourself of what your dreams are. And kids are so beautifully positioned to never forget that, like so many of us adults have.
Yeah. So it's really that combination of those three things that really is very powerful and makes the approach or the way that you teach that different from a lot that's out there. And I do think to your point about the mindfulness focus, I think that does tend to be where the focus is. But when you bring the meditation with that and then the manifesting also, there's really power in that.
Yeah. And another, I think, thing to note is that most apps are working on an addiction model. They want you to keep coming back. Like they're free normally because of advertising dollars. And so they're getting paid based on how long your eyeballs are on your phone. And to me, it's like, who wants to be tethered to their phone for meditation? It's like having an AA meeting in a liquor store. It's like, let's cut that cord, let's be self-sufficient. Wouldn't it be great to just close your eyes and be able to come home to yourself without headphones and Wi-Fi internet and all of that. And I think especially for our kids, they're
Yeah.
so zoomed out right now.
Oh,
And so while we will use technology just to give them the tools for a few days, after the 7-day course, they're going to be able to close their eyes and go in anywhere, any place, on a road trip, on a plane ride, at school, after school, before a sporting event, before sleep. They're just going to have, and it really does start to feel like a superpower where you're like, oh, I can step into my kindness, my bravery, my creativity whenever I choose.
And something that they can always have with them, which I think is so powerful. And really for any of us, right? When we're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling stressed, anxious, that's all about managing uncertainty for ourselves and feeling like, oh, I don't have control over what's happening. And we often don't have control over what's happening, but we have control over our response to it. And it strikes me that that's really what you're focusing on here, is giving kids a tool, giving us as adults a tool that regardless of what's going on around us, we can control how we respond to that and kind of go inward and use these tools to help us manage through.
Mm-hmm. So in the kids course, we have this awesome character. His name is Z Bunny. So we're working with writers from Sesame Street and Harvard, child psychologists. And so my world has been so weird these past few months. I've spent hours a week looking at fur colors and eyeball shapes. I'm like, what is my life right now? But anyway, Z Bunny is being birthed as we speak. I think he's en route to New York City. And so Z Bunny he's my teaching partner, and he's in superhero school for the kids course. And every day he's dealing with another challenge. His big brother won't let him have his superhero cape. He broke his mom's jelly bean bowl and he doesn't want to tell her. He's has a test at school and he's scared. So every day he's dealing with these big things that are causing big emotions that feel outside of his control. And I'm not guiding him to say, oh, well, go like beat up your brother or yell at your mom or tell your teacher you're not taking the test. It's never about changing or controlling the external circumstances. It's about our ability to adapt, our ability to surrender. And while I don't use terms like adapt and surrender in the kids course, I do think these are important concepts for us as parents to have with us, because again, the more we understand them and the more we can model them, the better we're going to be able to guide our children and to be their sidekicks. And that's how I frame the adults, is that they are the kids' sidekicks as they go through the training.
I love that. So many pieces that you're bringing together for this that are just so exciting. I can't wait for families to be able to access this. And professionals too. I mean, because obviously this is something that can be used in schools. It can be used by any practitioner working with a child in any capacity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, from your lips to God's ears. Really, our poor kids, they're going through a lot right now. And my only regret is that this isn't out right now. I wish I just had it to like pour over the planet at this moment in time, but I'm going to trust, I'm going to take my own advice. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to surrender. I'm going to trust that the timing is perfect.
It always is, right? But to that point, can you give our parents who are listening maybe a starting point or two? Maybe it's something, maybe it doesn't even have anything to do with their kids. Maybe it's a starting point for themselves of how they can start to incorporate some of this or think about something differently. Or maybe it is something that they could do with their child. What are some ways that parents can just start dabbling in this?
So some fun things that come to mind, and I'll teach something for the parents first, and then I'll teach an adaptation of it that they could share it with their kids. But this is the simplest and also one of the most effective tools I've ever found. It's called the 2X breath. And all we're doing is that we're inhaling through the nose for the count of 2, and we're exhaling through the mouth for the count of 4. And that might sound simple, because it is, but let's not underestimate the power of it. And we don't want to confuse simplicity for weakness, right? The power in this comes from the simplicity. And so the magic in the 2X breath is that we are doubling the length of the exhale from the inhale. And if you do that for 10 to 15 cycles, then you start to strengthen the vagus nerve, which is like the super highway between your brain and body. And when you do it enough times, your vagus nerve starts to produce something. It's a German word called, I think it's Vegasstoff. So it means like stuff of Vegas. But basically your vagus nerve starts producing like a neurotransmitter that actually slows down your heart. And so when we get stressed, when we get panicked, the first thing that happens is that our heart rate increases. And so one of the markers of an adaptive, resilient human, be it adult or child, is something called heart rate variability. And heart rate variability means basically, can you adapt or not? Can you launch into fight or flight when it's appropriate? Can you relax when it's appropriate? And because so many of us have been dealing with chronic stress for so long, we're just amped. We have that adrenaline and cortisol that's just making our heart beat at the very fast rate all the time. And if we get too stressed for too long, it goes into adrenal fatigue. So anyway, this 2x breath, I'm just explaining a little bit of the science because otherwise it's easy for people to write it off of like, oh, she just told me to take some deep breaths.
Right.
And that is basically all I'm telling you to do is take some deep breaths, but there is a little bit of discipline around it. And that is simply doubling the length of the exhale from the inhale. So we can do some together now. And then afterwards we can adapt it for kids.
Great. Let's do it.
You can do this seated or standing. If you're really amped, you could do it even walking. And so you would inhale for 2 steps and exhale for 4 steps. But ideally you're seated right now. You don't need any fancy fingers. You don't need to like be cross-legged. Just in a chair is cool. And let's inhale through the nose for 2. And then we'll exhale through the mouth for 4. Really good. Inhaling through the nose for 2. Big belly breath and exhaling through the mouth for 4. Inhaling into the belly and then breathing space around the heart. And on this exhale, we can soften the brow, soften the jaw, let the shoulders drop, let the belly soften. We'll do a few more. You can close your eyes if you like, breathing into the belly, breathing space around the heart. And then exhaling through your mouth for 4 and feeling every muscle in your jaw, your brow, your shoulders start to soften and relax. We'll do 2 more breaths, letting this be the biggest inhale you've taken all day. And exhaling, letting your muscles soften and surrender, feeling your feet heavy on the ground, letting go of anything that is not serving you. And one final time, biggest inhale you've taken all year. And then exhaling, just releasing, 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 letting go, letting go, letting go. Really good. So we can continue on. You can keep your eyes closed. And now I'll adapt it a bit for something you could share with your kids. So again, we'll simply inhale through the nose for 2. And this time as we exhale, we can hum. So so simple. We're just humming. We're just putting a little bit of sound to the exhale. So inhaling through the nose for 2 and exhaling. And as we exhale, we'll make a little bit of a humming sound. We'll do one more. And on this final one, inhaling through the nose, as you hum, I invite you to put your hands up on your face and to see if you can feel the vibration in your face as you hum. You might feel it in your nose or in your cheeks. Really good. And dropping your hands in your lap, keeping your eyes closed, letting your breath be easy and natural. And just noticing how you feel. That was 20 seconds or less. Just noticing how you feel now versus how you felt before we took those few 2x breaths. Really good. And in your own time, whenever you're ready, we can start to slowly, gently open the eyes. So the 2x breath is what I recommend for the adults, just in for 2, out for 4. You could do it walking or seated. And it's fun to add in the humming with the kids because sometimes you can, and I call it feel the vibration.
Yeah.
So and they can put their hands either here or sometimes on their nose. You could do it high. We tend to resonate up here when it's a high tone, or you could do it on your chest or your throat and when it's low. And the kids kind of think that that's cool, especially if they're younger, to have real-time feedback of like, oh, I can change where my vibration is happening even by changing the tone. And actually that humming is also very, very calming to the vagus nerve in addition to doubling the length of the exhale.
Yeah, I was going to say that humming is such a powerful tool for toning the vagus nerve too. So that's great. And I love that because I think for kids, especially young kids, that physical feedback, that feeling that in their body, that's a powerful thing. So I think probably even some adults would benefit or enjoy doing that too.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing about the humming is that it's hard to do at work or you know, if you're out in public. But you know, so many of us are at home right now, so it's like hum away. You know, live your humming dreams.
That's right. Hum for your best life. I love it. So, and you know, one thing that I think is worth pointing out is that we can't expect kids to just start to be able to do this stuff when they're struggling with something. We need to practice and make this part of our lifestyle, part of what we're practicing during times when we're feeling calm too. Because sometimes parents say, well, I taught them how to do that, but they're still getting all distressed and upset, and they're not able to use their breathing. And it's like, well, how much have you practiced it at times when they're able to actually like practice it and feel it? Like, we're not getting good at anything when we're all worked up, right? So this making a daily habit of this, right?
That's exactly right. Like you wouldn't be like, oh, well, I'm going to go into a gym and just pick up a 350 pound weight. It's like, no, you have to lift weights every day.
Yeah.
You have to get stronger. And that's one of the beautiful things about Ziva is that so the ZivaKIDS is a 7-day training. For the little kids, it's about 8 to 10 minutes a day. For the older kids, it's about 15 minutes a day. And the cool thing is it's like, once you go through the 7 days, you can always come back and refresh. You can always come back. I mean, I'm trying to make them as entertaining and fun as possible so the kids want to come back and revisit and watch the episodes again, like an episode of TV. But the idea is that once they move through that 7-day training, they're going to have these tools to take with them. They're going to understand it inside and out. And yes, we will give some triage tools of like, okay, so you have a test. Yeah. So you're dealing with bullying, so you have to move. Like there's going to be some triage audios, but the actual core, the matriculation is designed to give kids a daily practice. And that said, I don't want parents to be like drill sergeants. I don't want parents to be like, did you meditate today? I don't want them to be the meditation police. Right. Because kids will find their own way to it. Once you tell them that like, oh, this is a superpower and you actually can go inside and access it however you need in the ways and the times that you need, then they might be doing it and not even telling you. Yeah. So we have to watch ourselves that we're like, well, you have to do it every morning before you brush your teeth. And it's like, they might be doing it at school before a test and not even telling you about it. So I along with the kids training, there is some parents training. There's some supplemental parents training because I have to give the parents the guidance of like, hey, let them lead the way, give them some space. You model your own behavior. They learn by watching, not by telling. And so there is the guidance as well. And the other thing I just want to mention is that with Ziva, for a lot of kids, and it definitely happens with the parents as well, there can be a phase of emotional and physical release, like a detox that happens in the beginning. And so a lot of the training that I'm giving to the parents is how to help their kids through that and how to not be scared of it and actually see it and celebrate it as part of the healing process, which is good because then it starts to get us out of that like system, that habitual framing that we've had for so long of like, oh, let me just shut it down. It's like right off the bat, most kids are going to have a bit of a catharsis. And if we can embrace that and celebrate that, then it's downhill from there.
That's great that you're giving parents the tools for knowing what to expect with that and how to manage that. And I think, to your point about the modeling and to parents not being the meditation police, I think that's really important. And I want to say to those of you who are listening who maybe feel like, my kid is so challenging, my child's so resistive, am I going to be able to get him or her to do this? What I would say is don't try to get your child to do this, model. That's really powerful. If you have a really resistive child, whether they're a younger child or maybe they're a teenager who's going through a resistive period, you being the model, instead of telling them they have to do this, just you do it. Have them see you doing it. If you're feeling worked up, you would use this. If you're noticing that, this might be helpful to them during something they're going through, you can just drop into, doing some of the 2X breathing, those kinds of things. Don't get focused on trying to get your child or force your child to do it. Just get into the habit of modeling that. And that is a much more, I think, inviting way to approach it and avoids those power struggles.
Oh, thank you so much for saying that because, anytime we're pointing at someone else, we got 3 fingers pointing back at us. And I can guarantee you that if your kid's stressed, it might not be exclusively because of you, but I guarantee you that your stress is not helping the cause. And so if you can do your own tools and techniques to decrease your own stress levels, that in and of itself is a gift. That in and of itself is going to help your kids stress. Because if you're happy, then they feel like they're not responsible for your happiness. If you're, unfortunately, most kids are, well, I don't know if it's unfortunate or not, but kids are narcissistic by nature. They think that the world revolves around them. It's one of their survival mechanisms.
Yeah.
And so if we as parents are angry, sad, upset, depressed, our kids can't help but take a lot of that personally. They think that it's their fault. That's just how we're wired. And so as you start to practice your own mental hygiene, as you start to take responsibility for your own stress management, it takes the onus off your kids. They're going to feel that you're happier. And so I would say, we're in this interim where ZivaKIDS has not yet quite come out. So the thing that you could do if you're like, oh, I really want my kids to do this, the best thing you could do for yourself is you do Ziva online. Yes. Start now, start modeling, make it inviting. And then even when, like, let's say you do get ZivaKIDS and like, I don't want to do that. I would say, okay, well, let's just color and then let's just play the video.
Yeah.
We can just play it in the background and you and I can color and they'll take in what they take in, and we're going to have coloring books and worksheets and all of that. So you could just be like, all right, well, let's just draw Z Bunny, and Z Bunny is going to be over here talking and they'll receive what they're meant to receive. My best friend has an 8-year-old daughter and she's testing out some of the videos for me right now. And for years, her 8-year-old was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And then one day she said, I want to do Ziva. And then she did it like 3 times in a row. Yeah. So we got to trust their timing, right? We can't dictate it for them.
Yeah. Make it an inviting process. Yeah. I love that. So this is coming soon. Where can parents go to get more information? Number one, if they want to explore Ziva now for themselves, but also to be kind of first in line to get the info on ZivaKIDS when it's released.
Yeah, so the best place to go is our website, which is Ziva, which is Z-I-V-A. It's just ZivaMeditation.com. And if you go to /kids, then you can go and put your name and email, and you will be the very first to know when ZivaKIDS is released. And there you can also find out about Ziva Online. And that's our 15-day adult training that teaches you the mindfulness, the meditation, and the manifesting. And there will be, if you do Ziva Online now, then it'll be like the pricing will be different for you when ZivaKIDS come out. Like we want to, reward our early adopters and be like, we want whole families meditating together and make that really easy for folks.
Yeah. And I think it's a wonderful suggestion for the adults to get started with that now so that they're comfortable and familiar with it and using it. And then, when the ZivaKIDS is ready to launch into that with kids, with their children. So we'll make all those links available, and of course, keep all of you updated as the launch is getting closer. But Emily, this has been such a wonderful conversation. You shared such great strategies with people. I just can't thank you enough for being here.
I really appreciate the work that you're doing, and I'm honored to be a guest. So thank you for having me. And it was my first time talking about ZivaKIDS, which feels really fun.
So exciting. Oh, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. And I know all of you are excited too. So thank you so much for being here for this episode, and we will catch you back here next week.